Welcome to Santaroga Surplus. This is part 4 of the Vz.50 and 70 maintenance series. And what we're going to do today, we have a disassembled, partly disassembled field stripped pistol. As you'll remember from other videos, we've taken apart the slide and reassembled it. And we've taken off the grips, done the field stripping. We've also addressed the magazines. So what we're going to do today is we're going to address the takedown button and how to remove that for cleaning or for refinishing, and the hammer spring, along with the hammer spring rod and the hammer spring keeper, and the magazine retention spring that sits in there on some models. We'll start here. You have to clip this just like you were doing a field stripping. And what you'll see is that up in here is a flathead screw. And you have to remove that screw part way. You can remove it completely, but it's a little bit easier to remove it part way. And it's very difficult because as a flathead, you're kind of at an angle to approach it, and with a common gunsmithing screwdriver, the angle's even worse. So if you don't want to bubba your screw too much, you need to make a little tool. I made this one out of .019 feeler gauge. I buy feeler gauges at garage sales because I can use them for things like this. I just snapped it off in a vise, ground a little lip on there to make it easier to get into things, and used a torch, heated this up and bent it. It takes 5 seconds to heat it up. It's that thin. You could probably go all the way up to about .025 in thickness. You have to get in there and you have to start it. If it doesn't want to turn, this is why I made the bed section, so you can get in there, get it started. You can do some of it from the top. You're going to have to do a lot of it sideways. And it takes a minute to do. Once you get this loose to a certain point, you can take the entire assembly off, and there is a capture spring. Well, it's the operation spring, but there's a spring captured in there, and you're going to have to not lose it, but it tends to not go, it's not a high velocity disassembly like some things are. That probably is enough. So we're going to slowly release the clamp. The whole thing comes out, and there's your spring. It's very simple. If you need to replace this, this is a very simple size of spring. It has plenty of play in there. You should be able to do that out of the Brownell's gunsmithing kit. Springs. And this is what I was speaking about with how it functions. When the disassembly button is not pressed, the slide can go back that far. When it is pressed, the slide can come back about a 1/4 inch further, and that is 1/4 inch further. That is where you get the rails past the frame and can disassemble the pistol. There's usually a ton of cosmoline in here. I've already cleaned this out once, and I'll probably have to clean it out again. For reassembly, very similar. Backwards, put the spring in. You put this on the track. Clamp it. And you have to screw it down. You want to screw it down fairly tight. You want to figure out where that spot is that it's tight. If you try to go for too tight, you're probably going to bubba your screw head. I'm not sure why they went with flathead. Obviously Torx didn't exist at the time, and I'm not sure you could get a Torx to work, but I would have done not a Phillips, but a crossed flathead, so that you had more angles to work with. There you go. That's done. I'm going to take that apart again and leave it apart so it won't be in the next video because we're going to be getting into deeper frame issues. Hammer spring has the rod, the spring, and this part right here is the keeper. Okay, I've seen videos where people remove the hammer pin and the hammer to get at this. This is actually just a very simple piece to pop out. It is better if you have a vise, okay, but I'm going to do this for the video. I've popped springs. This is the only time I've ever popped a spring, was doing this without a vise. This model of pistol, in fact. You just push to compress the spring, pull it out, there you are. 3 pieces for that. This is very easy to put in. You just kind of wiggle it until it's up all the way. You can try to do that and it won't, you can tell it's not in all the way. Very simple to replace. There's your spring. I wouldn't necessarily try for a lighter spring, but you could probably put a lighter spring in. I don't have any problems with the trigger pull on these, so, but I'm not spoiled and I don't consider a 7-8 pound double action pull to be ridiculous. The single action is fine. There's another spring in the grip frame that you can remove and you can operate without that. I believe all 3 Vz.50s that I've seen have had that removed. What that spring does is put a little bit of pressure on the rear of the magazine, and that prevents it from just dropping free, and that's done if you don't want to lose your magazines. Americans are litter bugs. We like to drop our magazines and watch them bounce and get full of sand. In most of Europe, through most of modern history, these have been kind of expensive, so you don't just drop them. So if you want to keep it, keep it. If you don't, don't. Put that back in to its slot. Put the spring on this. Put it back where it goes. Now the keeper is machined slightly with a little recess so that it actually holds the spring, which is really nice because you don't, that way you don't have to actually balance the spring on there when you're recompressing to get the keeper in. And it's on there, but you see it's not in all the way. Usually, a gentle tap will get it the rest of the way in. Because you just, that's gentle. What you've got is you've got an angle that you're sitting at, and the spring is just pushing unevenly. There you go. That's it. The next step is going to be to work on the side plate of the frame, and that's where things in this pistol tend to get a little complicated, and the reason we're going to stop here and not turn this into a 1-hour video. Have a good one.